Hello, welcome to today's HR Huddle. I'm Tamera Loerzel, and with me is my colleague Jennifer Wilson, and we are here to talk about all things talent and HR related with talent and HR leaders in the profession and other partners and leaders that are managing talent or managing HR programs. And today, we thought we would maybe pick a tricky topic as we enter the fall season here. And one of the things that we hear when we are helping people with performance reviews or evaluations or how to deliver effective feedback, one of the examples that often comes up is executive presence. And we thought we should stop and break down what do we mean by executive presence, because that's hard to say. You need to improve your executive presence to get promoted to senior manager or partner or whatever the next level is. And the person we're giving that feedback to does not know the specifics of what that means. And we all can make up or interpret what that looks like differently. And so it is common. That is often something that we need to say, how do we figure out how to have more power in our communication, have a crisper look, so that we are heard and we are listened to. We don't have distractions going on that might deter from how we are communicating. And so we thought we just would stop and break that down and say, well, what do we mean by executive presence? And then how do we coach and give feedback on it so it can be actionable for the individual? Jen, what else would you add to that setup?
Just like, what are the other phrases people give us? We'll get in there when we're defining this thing, but there's a bunch of weird language we use. We tiptoe around this whole conversation. And this is about like personal packaging or the way people come across. It's not always physicality, but it's often physicality, not always. And we just have a bunch of mumbo jumbo, we say, around it. Not straight and not clear, certainly fuzzy as all get out. And Tamera and Jen do a lot of coaching for future leaders and up and comers. We do some turnaround coaching. This one comes up, it's in 360 feedback. It shows up like strengthen your executive presence. And we don't ever, it's just too fuzzy. So I think that's the biggest thing of all is how can we crisp it up so we understand what we're working on. And so the person really can improve, whatever that might be.
Yeah, perfect. Well, let's go there and let's talk about personal packaging, my professional packaging and personal packaging and what that looks like. And I know we talk a lot about, your personal brand and portraying a brand that represents who you want to be and also the firm. And when we start to let's look at externally, external packaging, which could be our clothing choices, our hair choices, jewelry, tattoos, and you could go, Tamera, you are starting to wade into some really personal, pokey topics here. It's personal preference. Yes, and no. Yes, it is. And we can do so in a manner that will still reflect the professionalism, the confidence you're trying to convey. And I think that's the place to start is, what are we trying to convey in our attire, in our dress, first appearances, whether it's on screen or in person, like that's a first impression. And then while we're meeting with them, or if we're sitting across a conference table with them, we don't want it to be distracting, or we don't want it to be something that, is less than, the confidence that we're trying to portray with the services, the advice that we're giving, and, for the engagements that we're, working on with the clients. So we always like to say when we look at personal packaging and professional packaging from a clothing perspective that, Jen, you use the word crisp. We want it to be crisp, professional. That doesn't mean it has to be a suit and coat and tie and skirt or jacket. Slacks, right? It could be what we would call business casual, which I know firms have struggled with. We went to dress for your day. We have to match what it looks like. but there is a level of having it be the kind of clothing that is more on the business side rather than the Friday night go out side.
Yeah.
And so I can have, business casual that's, a crisp top or shirt, slacks or a skirt. And I can have the appropriate jewelry, aligned with it. And one of the things that we would say is it's crisp in that it's pressed, it looks good. It doesn't look like you just rolled out of bed, which I know we hear a lot of since COVID and the pandemic. We don't want to look tussled, we don't want to look wrinkled. And so, there are some, that sounds basic, but sometimes that's what we see is that it's just not the best clothing that's going to portray that, or it doesn't fit appropriately. We all have different body sizes. I know that's, sensitive and personal, but if we go and, get a personal shopper at Macy's or, bring somebody along that we admire their, dress code, if you will, they could provide some advice, and we would probably try clothing that we would not normally gravitate towards. And we can find the right clothing that is going to fit us appropriately. And we change and our bodies evolve as we age, and, as we, maybe are either working out or, doing other things. And so we want to make sure that we have it fit and that it is appropriate from where we are today. What else would you add to clothing or professional appearance?
Well, before I do that, I want to take one step back and say, what we're trying to do when we talk about executive presence or personal packaging or, I'm thinking professional impact.
Yes.
And my strategy in life for this topic, myself personally, growing up as a young female starting in technology at 19, and I had the challenge of being young and female. I had to create a strategy for how I was going to try to maximize my professional impact. And I felt like to do that, I needed to sort of dress the part, still have my own personal style, but dress the part, look at how others were dressed that I wanted to be at the table with, but also to pay attention to what I was coming across as, how it affected the way people heard me.
Right.
And so, that meant, trying to figure out, I wasn't trying to dress like a guy, but I wanted to have the right level of professional dress. So if I am, serving today in 2025 IT companies, I don't have to wear a dress or a skirt or slacks and a coat. I could wear jeans. They probably need to be nice jeans, maybe dark wash jeans. I have to have dress, sandals, or shoes on probably because I'm working, but I can dress a little more casual than I would if I were serving going to a CPA firm partner retreat day one at somebody's conference room. Then I'm going to have a different outfit on probably than that one. I'm not wearing jeans, that's for sure. Because I want them to hear me. So one thing about it that I always tell people when I have to coach them on this is you don't want them to not be hearing you because they're busy, like their inner dialogue is making all these judgments about what's going on with what your packaging looks like. So for me as a young female, I avoided jewelry that made a lot of noise, or earrings that swung a lot while I talked, or colored fingernails that while I was doing this, people would be paying attention to. And you guys might listen to this and think, oh, come on. But back then, that was the stuff that got them not hearing me. If my bangled bracelets were saying young girl, or a short skirt or super high heels or any of those things, they weren't listening to me trying to help direct their corporate strategy, which is what I was trying to do. And I just had to say, how could I minimize how this stuff has them stop listening? I want them to lean in and listen. And so, today that could mean that if I'm going to be on a conference call with clients and I'm on video, I probably shouldn't have my hat and pigtails from just running unless I've known these people a long time and I ask permission. I say, I could do that call, but I'm going to come in from a run, and they expect that of me. Otherwise, I'm probably going to throw some people off. They won't like think I'm as credible or something because I came in, or they'll think, what an arrogant person. She came in pigtails. She thinks she's, that successful that she could do that. They'll make up stuff about what I'm doing because of how I look. So I just try to take that away all the time. Stop looking at what I have on or how my hair is, and just listen to me. And that's what the kind of advice that I give to others when they need to deal with this. And the thing on clothes, Tamara, is fit matters. And there are times in our lives when our clothes don't fit anymore. They don't fit well, and we need to change and go up a size or down a size. Or we have a body type that no clothes off the rack fits well, and we need to find an inexpensive tailor who will shorten our pants or lengthen our pants or whatever it is to get a good fit. And I love what you said about trying on clothes that I might not have thought of picking myself. And that's what a personal shopper will do for you. And that's usually like transformative. When you do it, you're like, wow, I would never have picked that, but I feel good in it.
Right.
And so that's the last thing on personal packaging that I have is, if you look good or not. If you look in the mirror and go, I look good. Or if you're like,
you feel good in it. You also feel
yeah,
good.
It'll do. If you're going, it'll do, in a pinch or whatever, when we're sort of settling, then we're probably not going to maximize our impact. That's all, And so like rolling out of the rack and coming to a meeting, we probably aren't feeling our best, our max. And you don't have to feel like you're going to Cinderella's ball or something, but you do need to feel like put together. And we say professional, crisp, tailored, put together, and sort of confidence inducing. It can't be undermining to confidence, and so anyway, those are all important things to me, for me, myself, the rules I try to follow myself, but also whenever I'm coaching anybody on this.
Yeah, that's great. And I do think it's situational. I might be able to come to a Friday team call in a hoodie and a ball cap,
for sure,
but I should not show up in a hoodie and a ball cap if I am going to a client meeting and the partner is not expecting it or the client's not expecting it. Your point about permission, I think, is important. But I can then dress appropriately for the kind of client that it is or the kind of meeting that it is. And that's not always easy. And so opening up that dialogue and having that kind of conversation, I think, is helpful. We ask, what is the dress expectation? If we're going to facilitate a partner retreat or we're going to go speak at a conference, we know what the dress code is. And we typically dress one level above. That's another kind of rule of thumb, I think, that both you and I have operated from is, one level above. You can always take a jacket off. You can always dress down, if you will. It's hard to dress up once we're there. So I think verbal and written communication is another thing to pay attention to as we're talking about executive presence and professional packaging. And it can be as simple as things like watching spell check, making sure we are paying attention to salutations and we're not too informal with people. We've heard that before. And so looking at our email communication, especially, but written communication, it does represent both you and the firm and the care that you're taking when you are delivering written communications. And I think in verbal or oral communications, looking at our filler words, I know they're hard. I use them. We all use them. We pick our latest favorite of the day and incorporate them into it. But how do we practice that? But sometimes the inappropriate use of humor or too much humor or it's over the top can be something that takes away from our credibility with the people that we're speaking to, or they just kind of tilt their head and have a second thought about it, or their inner dialogue now focuses on that instead of the message and where we were. It's like, where were we just a minute ago? So it can be distracting again if we go back to that distracting. So those are some thoughts that I would offer on oral and written communication.
Yeah, profanity, I think it probably goes without saying, but I was just talking to somebody I'm going to podcast with soon, and he was like, it can be spicy. And I was like, okay, well, I'll be opinionated. And he goes, you can cuss too, and I was like, huh, I don't think I will. I don't usually cuss on a podcast, but that's interesting. I'll have to think about that. I might feel strongly enough that I could muster something, but I wouldn't do it if it wasn't authentic to me. But it
Right.
was interesting that, and this is a national publication. We're not talking about, something sort of narrow. But, I mean, in general, when I have a microphone on, I'm not cussing. And only because I don't want people to be distracted by that and not hear the intention, the message, not interact with me on the subject. So it's sort of like, are you paying attention to the delivery or the actual message? And that's what we want to get away from, is people being distracted by the delivery. The other thing is word habits, which Tamara, you and I have talked about. I just did one, which is a good one of mine. But we help people get rid of word habits, and they are so surprising how we all have them, and they creep in and we don't know we have them, and then we use them a lot. Mine is usually overuse of an adjective of some kind. I don't know what it is right this minute, but I pick something like tragically, or I don't know what it is. That's not it right now, but I'll pick something like that, and all of a sudden I'll hear it. I'm using it a lot. And then I think,
people use like "to be honest" or "candidly,"
actually,
"actually,"
actually, it's actually
or
the
"right."
word.
Right is another one. Right at the end of every sentence.
Right? So all these word habits that can detract. Now, we don't want to nitpick each other on these things. We're not suggesting that. But we are suggesting that if you were to get some feedback that you need to enhance your executive presence, you might say, is it something related to my personal packaging? Is it related to any verbal habits that I have, or anything I could do better in communication? Because, another place we kind of roll our eyes when somebody says executive presence, because we're like, what on earth? What is, that's so huge, whatever that is, could you please narrow it? Same with improve your communication. That's like, what? The effectiveness is impacted in what way? Is it impacted by my delivery? Do I not organize my message clearly? Like, so sometimes we have to unpack it a little further. And we know, Tamara and I, that when we get this feedback, people say, to a young up and comer, you've got to improve your executive presence. They're sometimes both stumped and offended simultaneously. Like, I don't know what that means, but I know I'm upset by it. That's all I know.
I don't like that
So,
phrase.
then we have to start helping them pull apart the ball of yarn to figure it out. And so you, as a feedback deliverer, as specific as you could be. And sometimes we don't want to be specific, especially personal packaging. Um, you know, um, Tops are too low cut. Okay, we've had that one before. Well, maybe if I'm a guy, I'm going to HR. I'm getting some feedback. I'm getting help in the delivery of that, and figuring out, are we going to deliver that message? And if we do, I'm certainly going to try to have it be a two-person on our side delivering that message.
With at least one female.
Yeah, with at least one female. Yes, thank you. And that just would be our advice. And some of you may have a different perspective these days, but that's what Tamara and Jen have found most effective. And it's awkward as all get out, but it is about distraction, and it's about detracting from your message, and maybe allowing people to not see you as elevated, impacted, inspiring, authoritative as you could be, because they're too focused on your packaging.
Right.
So anyway, just a thought on this narrowing on communication. And sometimes people will say, improve your executive presence. And what they mean is that you're being kind of mousy, or kind of withdrawn, or wimpy, or quiet, or like you aren't coming across as emphatic enough about your message, or you don't speak up enough, or when you do, no one can hear you. At every one of our workshops we do, there's always somebody who's, it's their turn to share, and they say something, and the entire room is like, what? They can't be heard because they've said it so mildly, so softly. And then we have to be like, well, bring your outside voice in here. Like give us if we don't have a mic, and if we do even, it might still be light. And so paying attention to that, like some of us might be too loud and some of us might not be loud enough. And then maybe I have to stand up when I speak if it's to a big room. And sitting down, I'm impacting my executive presence by sitting down and not addressing the room as a whole. I'm sitting in the front of the room and I'm going to share a comment and there's 60 of us. I should stand up and turn around and face the room. It's things like that. And none of us is ever going to be perfect at executive presence, but when we're giving that feedback, specificity matters, narrowing it down. And Tamera, you and I know this too. Inside our leadership team, if we want to coach somebody on this, we need to sort of pinpoint it before we do. Don't write them a blank check of, the whole world of possibilities that they then have to start being paranoid about, and also like guessing and trying, and just telling them as specifically as you can. And HR can always help.
I was just going to say, I would let your leadership team speak plainly in the private room. Let them just say however they need to say it. And then you can help deliver how we're going to provide that feedback so that it's specific and actionable. Because that's one of the reasons we don't do it, or we couch it, with executive presence or other words. And so we have to say, well, what does that look like? What would you change or improve or have that person do instead? And if we can get to that and give them permission to speak plainly, I think that would help. So we have a couple articles on this, one on the packaging and one on verbal uh-ohs. And we will include that when we post this blog. So this podcast, we will make sure to include those and attach those. But if you have any other ideas or you have some specific sticky situations, please reach out to us. Let us know. We'd be happy to unpack them with you. And if you have other topics for future HR huddles, you can let us know that too. And we will plan on seeing you next week. Thanks for joining us and have a great week.